Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Brock Lawley program. My name is Brock Lawley. I am your fearless host. Look, today's podcast is just pointing out the obvious. I don't know how sustainable this is, but the level of contention, I suppose, and that's an understatement, but the level of, just two halves that absolutely have no intention of merging, have nothing in common, no goals, no political aims that are the same, no civil aims which are the same. The two political parties, at least in America, and of course this is a byproduct of a two-party system which is failing us, but nonetheless, that's what we have. They simply have nothing in common. They don't have the same goals. They don't see the same country. They don't share a sense of nationalism. There really is. I mean, if you really soberly look at the situation we have in the United States of America, what is the glue that binds us as citizens? Our devotion is clearly now not to nation, but to ideology and to party. And I know there's all kinds of complaining about that. I'm included. I'm in the cacophony of those complaints. But I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with just pointing out the obvious, right? I'm not relishing or celebrating this. I'm saying this is. And it is. There's no big tent. There's nothing. There is a full-blown civil war for the heartbeat of the nation, for what the nation will be, what its values will be. There is zero crossover in the Venn diagram of our, modern-day politics. That being said, I'm wondering, having always been very honest with you guys up front, I'm a conservative. I have conservative politics. That's where I stand. I prefer a world where you're transparent like that. I'm wondering, how long is just anti-Trump, and any series of turn the volume all the way up to 11 hyperbolic catastrophes, warnings of catastrophes, largely surrounding Russia. How long does that sustain a party? I mean, I'm gonna present to you a question, and regardless of your politics, I'd like you to chew on it with some degree of intellectual honesty. What has the Democratic Party offered in the aftermath of an election outside of Trump's colluding with Russia? And again, zero. I want to just keep reiterating this. And when and if this changes, I will certainly tell you. I will be honest about this. I'm one of the painful gluttons of punishment that research these fruitless, throw paint at the wall claims. Zero. I mean, seldom can you say this. Almost everything has a germination of truth. Zero evidence, less than zero actually, has been presented to prove any such claim in regards to Donald Trump. Moreover, even his administration. There's zero claims that they colluded with the Russians, or zero evidence that they colluded with the Russians, and zero evidence that impacted the election. But the claim is out there. Fine. Obviously, the Democratic Party was, scrambling after a bloodbath election. They needed something. They needed a nail to put their hat on. That's what they chose. But my question to you is, just by way of your life, right? 370 million constituents, 370 million citizens, all struggling with the economics of their life, the social consequences of their life, obviously the growing and emerging threat of Islam and the radical Islam on the globe, but certainly on our soil. What is any of this doing by way of offering ideas, offering solutions to presented problems, offering policy decisions, offering competing vision, any of it? What is it? Where are the calories, so to speak? And the reason I mention this is because it is enough. I grant you, it is enough for people who are very upset, very angry, and they'll use a whole bunch of adjectives. They're frightened. They don't feel safe. All these people. Their candidate, Hillary Clinton, lost, so Donald Trump is in the White House. His ideology is being implemented. That's what he ran on, after all. It's not that radical of an idea that if you run on an ideology, you implement that ideology. It's not that radical. Nonetheless, this is exactly the formula that I would argue, that I would contend lost the Democratic Party and the left the election. The entire primary was a whole bunch of hyperbole holding hands in regards to who Donald Trump is as a person, the fears that one should feel in regards to his personhood, the individual, peccadillos of his personality that might rub you the wrong way, the boisterous nature, his bombacity, his loose-lipped attitude towards the world, his take no prisoners verbally, his candor, his attitude towards attractive women, shiny things. So everything in that campaign focused around like the ethos that is Trump's personhood. And very, very seldom would you hear not only Hillary Clinton lauding and focusing on the very real problems that Americans face, but even her support system wouldn't even focus on that. I mean, what did you hear? I'll just give you an example so we're not talking in generalities. What did you hear in regards to terror? So as leading up to the election, as one by one terrorist attacks lined up like ugly little ponies across the Western world, what was the focus? What was the discussion? What were the talking points? What were the ideas in regards to how to deal with this? Well, if you ever heard anything about them, it was telling you that you have some sort of biased bigotry towards Islam. Moreover, the actions of your nation, your lifestyle, and your behavior brought about these terrorist attacks and were responsible for these terrorist attacks. And I encourage you to use your Google Ball, research this, go back, type in a date, type in like CNN or MSNBC or type in Hillary Clinton, such and such a date. See what was being said. I guarantee you it will align with what I just told you. So I'm saying to you, that's not a pointing out. And by the way, this is it. Other than that, it literally anything else you would hear would be like Donald Trump is dangerous. So again, here we are months after the election. The Democratic Party has offered nothing, has self-corrected in no way, has painted an alternative vision in no way. I mean, I'm conservative, and I look at politics and pay attention to politics a lot. I still have yet to see any alternative vision for most of these problems. I'm not claiming that the Democratic Party doesn't have a playbook. I'm not claiming that if you brought up poverty, they're not going to have a couple buzzwords that they say. They're going to be like, poverty just disproportionately affects people of color in this country. This is a catastrophe. We need to move past our white privilege. Also, bankers and Wall Street they're making too much money, and the one percenters and the tax breaks for the rich need to cease. Well, you know what proved true was that the constituency, the voter base, the body politic heard that and heard nothing, heard gobbledygook, heard squat, because all that is a very dusty, for a progressive party, it's a very dusty rhetorical line that Marx and many others have pulled out long before these clowns have emerged out of the university dungeons that they matriculate from. These talking points are not even ideas. They're not even solutions. At most, they're blaming somebody or it's class warfare, but it doesn't spell out, okay, we're going to do A, B, C. We're going to implement A, B, C. We're going to do these things because we think, and we're basing these things on research, or we're basing these things on policy. We think this is going to bring about a good economic outcome for you, the individual. None of that happened. So the flyover state, the South, the labor unions, or at least they're not the labor union power structure, but the labor union voters, they all abandoned the Democrat Party because it was milquetoast, it was cotton candy, it was nothing, it was calorie-less. And we're in a serious time, and most people realize that. So again, I turn your attention to how long is just Russia, essentially, like a nebulous Russia? You don't even get a sense of what they're even talking about. It's just Russia, like the concept, or like the maybe sometimes you'll hear the word Putin thrown in there. They're real sparse on the details. You might notice that. It's just like, we've got to get to the bottom of what are we getting to the bottom of? Russia, collusion with Russia. Again, I'm just pointing out this is not a policy. This is not an idea. This is not anything. It's a political excuse at best, and a weak cheese one at that. So again, what we're really in the face of here is we have a nation with very, very real problems. Domestically, internationally, we have a party that's sole existence is to not be Donald Trump, is to not like Donald Trump, not be Donald Trump, which, by the way, does not serve us well. We absolutely do need a tug of war. We do need a contrast vision. We're not given one. Say what you will about conservative politicians, and I don't call them conservatives. Rhinos, establishment power, old, the old conservative power movement that doesn't conserve anything. It doesn't do anything. You say what you will about these guys. They are weak cheese. They're cowardly. They live and die off of the media breadcrumbs. But they've always been upfront in a substantive way about what kind of policies they want. Always. They want lower taxes. They want more individual money in the pockets of individuals. They want to preserve, most of them don't actually want this, but they'll go out and say they want to preserve some semblance of a border. They want to preserve some semblance of a safe environment for you to raise your children. I mean, they're telling you these are our goals. The leftist goals just move like the leaves in an autumn breeze. Some days they're all about transgenders. Then some days they're all about gender fluidity. Then some days they're all about white guilt. And some days they're all about cultural appropriations. I mean, God only knows from Monday to Friday where the left in this country is going to put their focus point, where they're attempting to throw their darts on the dartboard of policy. Who knows? We know that the Democrat Party hates conservatives. We know that they think they're racist, homophobic, bigoted, misogynistic, etc. Outside of that, it's very difficult to pin down what the desires are, what the goals are. I contend there are none. There never has been any. This is not the point of the Democratic Party. A point of class, gender, and race division doesn't actually need policy descriptions because it's race, class, and gender division. And you get enough people that truly do fear, the rich are after you, or the white guy's after you, or the guy that's straight or whatever, he's after you. These things you can stitch together enough people in a fabric and a tapestry of political constituency, and then you can win elections. But it didn't win last election, and it didn't win the election before that. It didn't win the election before that. So let me put one more little seed of bad news in your ear. If this point of contention doesn't see any kind of political result, like in other words, if you don't let any of the gas out of the atomic bomb that is leftism right now, and their fury and their bitterness and their anger, and the fact that there wasn't any self-correction didn't allow any steam to be released from that hot air balloon, that thing's going to blow. That thing is going to blow. And I have no reason to think that Russia or, if you go into the Midwest, which I have reason to do a lot, you don't hear people talking about Russia. You just don't. Put that test. You don't. People aren't talking about Russia. They're talking about their pocketbooks. And the Democrats have not learned this. Anyway, this is going to blow. This little Molotov cocktail is going to break. It's going to manifest itself very, very ugly. And on top of that, we don't have the infrastructure for communication anymore. We're all mobs. We're all reactionary. You're in the throes of a civil war. I don't relish this. I don't want this. I don't like this. I'm telling you this is true. This is true. And I mean, not only should one prepare themselves for this mentally, but you should understand what's happening so that you can't be cattle shooted and toll boothed into thinking whatever like meme or whatever talking point or whatever explanation of this crazy nonsense you're going to hear. But instead, seeing all this stuff is manifesting right now. All this stuff is boiling up right now. It's all happening right now for very distinct reasons that nobody's talking about. And no power brokers, no media personalities, they're not talking about. They're talking about pageantry, they're talking about showmanship and nonsense, but they're not talking about this. I know that's been a hailstorm of bad news. What can I tell you, ladies and gentlemen? Pull up a seat at the table of ideas, and it is not pretty. It is for the adults. The kids are over there making fart noises at the Thanksgiving table, but the adults are like, how are we going to put out this fire? And that's just where we're at. Thank you for listening to the Brock Lawley program. Be a people of fortitude, character, and now more than ever, courage.